Hi everyone, welcome back for another edition of Expert Episodes. This week I'm joined by Aaron Calvert. He's a leading mind reader and hypnotist, formerly a doctor. Back in 2015, decided to make the change and start his own business and help people in a different way. So Aaron, we were introduced following on from my last episode of this by Alexa Martinez from St. James's Place. She kindly introduced us. How do you know Alexa?
So Alexa actually booked me for an event for SJP, and it to be honest, it still always amazes me. Even I've been performing now over 10 years, and it still amazes me when people introduce me as kind of the mind reader and hypnotist. It is a bit crazy, kind of, when you think about that element of. It's not the most normal of an introduction. So thank you, Jamie, for the introduction. Essentially part of what I do on stage is obviously look at people's behaviour, look at how they interact, and almost kind of stay a step ahead of them in a way, because obviously naturally I'm going to attempt to read their mind, and I'm going to be using suggestion when it comes to hypnosis as well, and in order for all of that to work, the biggest part of what I need to do is get people to trust me, to get people on the same page with me, to instantly sort of build that rapport as quickly as possible. So for me, one of the biggest important things that I can help sort of with a corporate market, which is what Alexa hired me to do, was to talk to St. James's Place and all of their kind of employees, but that is the wrong word, about how they can build relationships with their clients and build that trust and rapport very quickly, because obviously it's a really important industry to be trustworthy in.
I like that, and obviously you must be good at what you do for Alexa to remember you after a few years of since she's worked with you to then recommend you to me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's partly, one of the things that I think I'm pretty good at is building that rapport and keeping that trust, and just, because of that you get a relationship where you get repeat clients. And Alexa, pretty much immediately after doing this sort of corporate talk and corporate training in a way, then booked me to perform at another event that SJP was having, where it was purely entertainment based. So again, through that relationship, almost repeat business from it.
Love it. Okay, so you just mentioned there about building rapport with people. So we've got some questions to run through, but that's just made me think that during the last 12 months, while everyone's been on Zoom and virtual, rapport building is different, isn't it? It used to be that we would teach people to walk up, give a firm handshake, smile, nod, not stand in someone's space.
Yep.
And it's different now, isn't it? So I'm conscious of this. I observed somebody so we run some networking events, and I observed somebody when someone was doing a presentation. They were clearly, you could feel the keyboard kind of tapping away and the screen bouncing. So rather than watching and listening, she was just clearly doing something else, and that's a great way to lose rapport straight away.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think you're right. I think there's actually a sort of whole other aspect to it, which I don't think many people have got that handle to yet. So first of all, there's that whole idea of how do you build rapport over Zoom, and how do you keep it when you're trying to compete with emails, with Amazon deliveries, with the kids outside the door, with all the other things that go on when you're working from home, but also when they're in the office as well. It is a different dynamic. And of course, part of that rapport building is that people are used to seeing your whole body. They can see your hands, they can see the way you walk, they can catch eye contact. Whereas Zoom takes that away. You've got this box, and let's be honest, we've got a pretty good setup here. You've got head and shoulders and head in the shot. That's pretty good. Most people, you kind of get this kind of look, and they're like, hello, wonderful, good to see you. Can you hear me? Am I on mute? So you instantly lose that kind of rapport there with people, and you're working with a lot less of a space. Even the intonation in the voice is different because it's gone through a process of going through whatever video streaming platform you're using. So it all changes. But the other aspect actually is when we return to a normality, people are going to be nervous about a handshake. And a handshake was one of those things that was sort of the first contact. It was so important to get the handshake right because it initiates the first kind of contact that separates you from kind of friend or foe. And so it's really important to get that right. And we're going into a world now where possibly you won't shake hands with someone for at least another couple of years, let alone hug them, if you were the hugging type. So yeah, there is a lot of consideration now in terms of going back to that model of going, how do we actually build rapport with people in this kind of strange modern day?
So the services that you offer then, just explain a little bit more about how you work with companies then. So you've touched on a little bit of how you've worked with St James's Place in the past. What's changed for you over the last 12 months and what are you currently doing?
Yeah, so obviously, so I actually got married 6th of March last year. I was super lucky to get the wedding in there and then. And at that point, you know, even coming from the medical background and having multiple dissertations out and published on infection control and prevention of disease, which has been published several times since the pandemic. So great. You know, despite having that, you know, the hotel basically said to us, we're not going to accept cash, so it's card only at the bar. And we all pulled our faces going, oh, what are they making a big fuss out of this for? Went on our honeymoon, and whilst we're on honeymoon, everything exploded over here in the UK. And suddenly it was really apparent how serious the pandemic was. And our honeymoon got cut short. Again, super happy and over the moon that we actually got our honeymoon in, because a lot of people have had to cancel their weddings and have had couples cancel their weddings as well that I was booked to perform at, and really empathise with them for that reason. But, you know, we came back early and suddenly all of my work was cancelled or postponed. And, you know, even 12 months down the line now, I've still got bookings that were May last year that are now being postponed to 2022. So suddenly I had this massive gap in my calendar where I went, well, what do I fill it with? So one of the other aspects of the business that I have is drawing on the medical side and the sort of psychological side of the mind reading and hypnosis. I do hypnotherapy. So the first logical step for me was to how to capitalise other skills that I actually have within my business already, within my skill set. So I don't have to immediately go out and learn something new. I've got these skills. I want to help people in a different way. I need to earn income in a different way. So I started to put out videos on how to keep healthy, how to help your mental state, and did 7 days of videos. So not 7 hours, 7 24-hour videos, nothing like that. I couldn't tolerate myself for that amount of time. Don't know how the wife has kept up with me during lockdown. You know, so what I did was I took this idea of 7 videos that were 4 minutes-ish long each, full of good health tips, good mental health tips, and put them out for free, put out free relaxation MP3s for people, and started to look towards companies to go, actually, you need to look after your staff's mental health. You've got a few big issues. Firstly, you've got the fact that we're in lockdown, full stop, that some people aren't working, that people are worried about their job security. You've got worries of what will happen if they return to the office, or will they return to the office? All of these things that are going to have a massive impact. And then one big thing that most companies were overlooking was what happens when we suddenly have this seismic change again of going from here back to the office. And so it was delivering talks and training on offices to help them, you know, understand mental health and to facilitate employees to have good mental health practices so that they're less stressed, therefore more productive, and that they are generally feeling better and healthier and looking after the staff. And I think it's really important as a business to invest your time and energy into your staff, because it'll pay dividends in the future, but also it's just a decent and moral and human thing to do, right?
Definitely. So, and I think that kind of service is going to be in demand for some time yet, because not every business, even though lockdown, you know, we're filming this in the start of April, end of March, a lot of businesses are still working from home and probably have got plans to do so well into next year, until we get maybe another cold and flu season out of the way next winter, and then really see what's going to happen. So I think there's definitely going to be huge demand for that over the coming months.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, you know, the other thing to bear in mind that can't be overlooked is we're also, things are going to have changed. And because we're not in the office, because we're not touching base, because we haven't kind of got that water cooler chat almost, people are going to slip through the net. You're going to miss things that are wrong with people within your staff, within your colleague network that you would have spotted. And we're going to have problems. People are going to keep problems to themselves because they aren't able to talk as openly and engage with people, or, you know, you might not see someone's moods change because it's easy to fake it for a 20-minute Zoom call. versus faking it for an entire day in the office. It's so different. And so it's really important that we're educating our staff on how to look after themselves, but also educating our teams on how to look out for one another as well.
So what else? That's one aspect of your business about people's health and well-being. What else do you offer?
So the other aspect of the business is production. So I've been involved in TV. So part of the reason I took that leap of faith finally from working in medicine, which was, you know, a full-time career. I'd worked all the way through med school, doing shows, performing, you know, touring stage shows. I don't know how I had the time, but I somehow found it. And then I started my work and I realised I kind of had two full-time jobs. And there is no way that, you know, if I had a gig on 7 o'clock on a Friday night and someone walks into A&E at 5 o'clock having a heart attack, I could go, oh, I'm really sorry, I'm just going to die quietly over there. I'm just going to go and perform on stage and do a mind reading show. And they're like, what? It just didn't, you know, that kind of thing didn't work. So I decided to take this leap of faith. And one of the reasons I took that leap is because Channel 4 were looking for a program developer, specifically around hypnosis. So I actually started to go and work with Warner Brothers, or Wall to Wall as the TV production company is called, to design TV formats, and eventually in 2018 actually had a TV show out, which was super exciting on primetime Channel 4, which was great. And so that kind of gave me that kind of final permission to myself to turn down this kind of really secure job and move into that aspect. So another aspect of the job is production. And I have a production company because I was producing video content and producing events. And we had, we'd started to produce this Vanishing Cabaret in Manchester, which was a once-a-month show. It sat 45 people, tickets were £35, so not cheap by any stretch of the imagination. But we'd create this whole experience and we sold out every show for a year. And then obviously that kind of vanished, but I still had the experience of putting on those events and theatre shows and other physical events and production. So I naturally actually ended up migrating towards virtual production, which was where I kind of spend a lot of my time now, which is how can I take what I create in terms of a virtual experience, of my knowledge of how something should feel and how people are engaged, my knowledge of TV formats and how to keep people glued to a screen, because obviously with virtual events you're competing again with emails, with Amazon deliveries, with the fact that people can kind of just go and browse the web and no one will know. So how can we create new virtual events that will drive forwards engagement with an audience in order for a company to deliver their message or training or drive sales, whatever that sort of overhaul objective is. So that's one of the things I've been working really hard with, and really proud of using virtual studios and creating a complete green screen effect where we had like Hannah Vaughan-Jones as a host, we had Tej Lavani as a guest, and we'd stream them in from all around the world. And suddenly virtual events offers this platform whereby you can take anyone from anywhere in the world and bring them into one location, which is a really new and interesting space for me. And I've been really enjoying that over the past sort of 6 to 9 months.
And I'm with you on that. Within our organisation, we organise some conferences, and we had someone from Germany, 2 people from Ireland for our UK event with no travel involved. In the past, they would have had to fly in the day before, spend the day with us, stay overnight, and then fly home the day after. So it becomes really accessible for someone to join you for a 60-minute speaking gig. It only takes 60 minutes rather than 3 days.
Yeah, exactly. And when you look at that, I think a lot of people think about the idea of virtual events, and anyone who's interested in attending one or running one, actually it's made the world a lot smaller, because there's one side which is obviously bringing speakers in. You can now stream them in if you were doing it all virtual, and the audience can watch that from anywhere in the world. And then you've also created content that you can then, if you're clever, divide up and take that meeting that would have ordinarily been a 2-hour presentation or event or whatever that may be, and you probably weren't going to pay a few £1,000s for it to be filmed, and then divide that content up because it would feel a bit weird. Whereas in this format, actually, you've got all your content recorded because it's live, and then you can take that and divide that up and put out snippets for 6 months if you wanted to and capitalise on that content. And then we look towards the kind of idea of virtual events meets hybrid events, and where we're bringing people back into sort of in person. And like you were saying, rather than fly someone from New Zealand in, which would cost a fortune. Let's bring them into the conference virtually, so bring them onto a screen and have that same interaction that you would have. Let them have that same TV experience, but also at the same time, you can broadcast that event now as a hybrid event back out to an audience to reach people that you never would have been able to reach before because they couldn't justify coming down from Scotland to London, say, and all the expenses that are associated with that for their company.
So in a previous job, in my last sort of corporate role, we used to organise some big events, 5,000 people at the NIA in Birmingham it was, and we started streaming some events, and there was a fear at the time that by streaming it would impact people turning up for the event. But some people love in-person events, and you can't replicate the coffee filters, the coffee machine sort of chats that people have when you just bump into someone and have a natural conversation. You can't do that online, and some people love that. Equally, there's those people, because of family or cost restrictions, that just don't tend to attend events, that if it's virtual, they can. So
yeah,
I'm with you.
and I think, actually one of the things, so I work with a company called Through the Eye, which are a London-based production company. Before this, they used to do events and conferences and stream people in and stream it out, but obviously all of it moved virtual in March. And so I work with them to create these amazing events that stream out to thousands upon thousands of people. And I think, you are right in that aspect of people go, oh, well, will it impact? Well, actually, no, because the people that want to come will absolutely still come. The people that you wouldn't have reached because they couldn't make it, well, actually, you can now reach via a virtual method. But one of the things that I'm working on for Through the Eye is how do you create that as that full experience so that the people there get the same experience as the people at home? And how do you get that water cooler chat for the people that are home so that they don't miss out on it? By not coming in person, they're not missing out on anything at all. And creating it as one event as opposed to kind of going, well, this is the in-person event and we'll whack a camera at the back and we'll just kind of stream it online on YouTube and, whatever. Actually, you want it to feel like one event so everybody gets that same experience and value. And this kind of comes back to one of the things that we were talking about before we started recording, which was, I have done virtual shows for clients, performed mind reading shows virtually. But in my heart, I don't think the quality of the show is as good as you would get in person because you're omitting aspects of the theatrics of the theatre and things like that. So rather than do kind of a full hour show, I do sort of 10 to 15 minute slots because I know that is going to be the key amount of time that people will engage with that sort of thing for, and because I can get in there 3 incredible things that people are going to go, wow, that's incredible. But I'm not going to do a full hour show and painstakingly draw it out with and fill it in with material, because material changes and what I can perform changes because I've only got this space to work with. I've not got your full attention. I can't influence you. I can hypnotize you, but I can't do the incredible things that you'd see on stage because the dynamic's different. And so for me, one of the things that I decided on personally was I wasn't going to compromise the quality of my brand, because people come to a Zoom show and they go, oh, that was all right. It was pretty amazing, the tricks, but the experience was okay. But they're not going to then pay £35 to come and see it live because they've already kind of seen it and gone, meh. Whereas the people that have seen it live and paid 35 quid, they paid to come and see a Zoom show and they go, wasn't as good. So it's just a lose-lose situation for me. Whereas conferences, and talking about taking that experience as a whole, people are used to conferences. What we're doing now is elevating it to a TV level production as opposed to death by PowerPoint. And in that event that I mentioned with the green screen with Hannah Vaughan-Jones and everything, we used about 3 slides over a 2-day event. And I'm super proud of that. All the content was quick, it was engaging, it was to the point, it was more like a news show. But, there was a 97% satisfaction rate from attendees on that event because of how it was delivered. And I think that's the key.
So I've sat in one of those virtual rooms and been made to look like I'm in a newsroom. One second. Been made to look like I was
the joys of Zoom right there. Yeah, absolutely. But again, you're that's a perfect example of that moment of how important it is to get that content right, because something like that, your attention drifts. Does it come back 100% in that moment for a virtual event? Well, if it's good quality and it's sticky in its nature, then of course. But if it's death by PowerPoint, you probably now are going to get up and go for a brew, right? So
So just explain for someone that's never seen that. What would somebody see, and how do you put it together?
Sure. In fact, let me see if I can bring up a super quick example to show you what this would look like. So I think one of the things that I'm advising a lot of people to do now is to have a host that kind of knits together an event, as opposed to it feeling very much just like three speakers who then all just sort of give a presentation. We want it to be much more like an actual event than kind of like an afterthought almost.
Yeah, so people need to be imagining, right? Their company conference, just because they can't do it in person,
Yeah.
can still have that wow impact. Bring in a guest speaker into a studio. The rest of the audience can be remote, but your key people could be in the studio, and you can create that wow impact, can't you?
Absolutely. And so, for instance, so this is one of the virtual studios that we used. That you'll be able to see now. Let me output that to you as well. So yes, you'll be able to see that. So that's one of the virtual studios we use. That's all green screen, and what we've done is therefore create this whole different experience based on the background moved, the screens interacted. So I can show you, we brought people up onto the screens like so we could have Hannah sat at the desk, and we bring in the guests at the background as well, and how all of that looks. And it's really interactive, and it's dynamic, and it keeps moving. And then when we wanted to talk to two people, we'd have something like this, for instance. So it changes that dynamic. It changes how it feels. All of that is therefore sort of completely different. And it creates an engaging event. And we can completely customize how that studio looks, the camera angles, all of those things, to create an event that doesn't feel like, oh, it's just another Zoom call, because that's what we're combating, right? We've all got this Zoom fatigue, but Zoom fatigue only exists in unengaging events. If you're engaged, then there's no fatigue, because you're just enjoying and engaging with the event, right? So I think one of the other things as well from that sort of side of things is then how do you translate that virtual studio into an in-person event? And that's what we've been working on, so that we can have the same studio experience, either a physical set or a virtual studio done by LED screens, so that the people physically at the event see exactly the same thing as the people at home. And that's kind of the next level of events for me.
Yeah, it's something else. And it's going to be interesting to see as more people get on board with that, and probably sit in on somebody else's event to think, oh, we need to make ours like that now as well. And they'll be able to do it because we'll have recordings of it, or they'll be able to sit in on somebody live broadcasting theirs. So I'm quite excited about the future of events going forward. So you don't do all that by yourself. Do you have a team that you work with?
Yeah, so I work with Through the Eye. So I'm currently managing accounts for them and producing events for them. I wouldn't physically be able to do it on my own. I have some swanky setup, as you've seen, with a sort of screen share and things like that, but certainly not to the level that Through the Eye have. So I've been working with them officially since November, and yeah, it's been a great experience to work for them and manage some incredible accounts for them, and some great clients to really give me the option to produce events like this. And I think that's one of the things, again, with that idea of pivoting the business. One of the things that I was worried about is being self-employed is moving to kind of more of an employment model where I have targets, I have responsibilities, I have to be in an office for a number of hours a day, and then it's a very different experience in the world. But for me, I have an 8-month-old, I have a 6-year-old, I have a house, a wife, I have a studio that's being built in the office at the moment, as we talked about before we recorded. And, for me, I had to make sure income was coming in. And so I took a job in something that I have experience in, that I enjoy, that I love. And it's opened this whole door to virtual events, and couldn't be happier to be doing that. And then it allows me to balance the other things that I do around that job. So nothing's kind of taken a step back. It's just that right now the events aren't happening in terms of performing. And if I'm honest, hand on heart, I don't think I'll be back in a theatre performing for at least 12 months, purely because it requires people to get engaged. It requires multiple people on stage, and if you're hypnotizing someone, honestly, someone sneezes and your attention drifts over there as opposed to what's going on the stage. I think that's really important for people to consider when they're putting on events. Yes, we've had the vaccine, but we're all going to be twitchy. We are all going to be worried. So, again, having that virtual event allows those people that are worried to tune in virtually and tune in there, as opposed to, sitting in an auditorium or not coming at all because they are worried. But for me, I can't wait to get back to stage and performing. I love the virtual world, and I love where it's going. But also, I absolutely adore performing, which is why I quit my pretty secure job as a doctor and did this and took that leap in the first place. And as you can imagine, the family was super impressed with that decision.
I can imagine. So one of the things for me in my business is that we help people leverage their network to generate new business and win more business by referrals. So I've got a great team of people that are my referral partners around me. Do you have any key people in your business that support you around you and that you rely on and help as well?
Yeah, I think that's so important, and I'm sure this exists in every industry, but within magic there is, and I say magic to encompass the performing arts of mind reading, hypnosis, magic, and all of that, and that ranges from Grandpa Joe that does a wedding for 50 quid, and honestly, if you're booking for someone for £50, I'm warning you now, it's not going to be the deal you think it is, up to someone that you pay £5,000 for to come and do an hour's corporate event or whatever that is. You've got this whole range of people that exist, but magic tends to be quite competitive in that people feel like they have their own patch, and so there isn't a lot of sharing within the kind of that genre, because people are really sort of, they hold on to it. So if they get an inquiry that they can't make because they've already got a booking, they'll just go, I can't make it. Whereas what I do, and what I have a nice network of people that I work with do, is go, I can't make it, but I can recommend Sam Fitton, I can recommend Luke Howells. Those are great performers, they're great people, they'll bring something to your event, and likewise they do it back. And I think it's important to start to build that network. And then also shout about what you do. Like when I pivoted everything to production back in sort of April time, no one outside my network who'd worked with me knew that I did it. So I started telling people about it. I started telling people that I do it. I went out and filmed a commercial for my wife's salon, and I put that online and made sure that the network of people that I work with then knew about it. Then knew that that I was doing something different, and this was the quality of the work, and immediately got inquiries from it. And then within that, one of those clients went, oh, actually, I need insurance. And I went, well, actually, I've just got my public liability and my insurance for filming from so-and-so, and passed them on. And I know they've since passed work to that person, and it's all circular. And I think, sometimes it can be very, the idea that if you don't want to pass something to a competitor because you think that they're going to therefore beat you or something like that. But actually, working with people that are in that industry that you can pass work around, that work will come back to you as well, because at some point they're going to be too busy to take it on, right? So yeah, I absolutely have a network of people that I would only recommend to if I know the quality is good. And the only way you know that quality is good is by engaging with them in the first place and seeing firsthand what they do and genuinely taking an interest. I think a lot of people networking, they go, great, so there's 50 people here, I'm going to go in, I'm going to tell everyone what I do as quickly as I can, and I'm going to get around everyone. Well, actually, I prefer to go in and meet 5 people, have a good conversation so they know what I do, I know what they do, and form a friendship and a relationship. And that's kind of what came out of one of the SJP events that I did. I literally, after I did the talk and everything, I sat down at the tables. I had lunch with everyone, and just anyone who had any questions or just had general chit chat. And I still continued to talk to Alexa. I talked to David. David, in fact, came to my wedding because we've become that good friends from literally me sitting at a table with them at an SJP event and just engaging with people. I think that's the key. Just make friends and enjoy spending time, rather than having that mindset of going, I've got to get business, I've got to get business, I've got to get business. Well, actually, business for me comes from making friendships.
Love it. And that's what we do. That's what we help people to do. And I think it's undervalued by a lot of people that you can build regular work from referrals as well. Last question for you now. So we're a year into lockdown and COVID. I would imagine there's going to be a lot of people consider career changes and moves. What advice have you got for people who are thinking about moving into your arena? What do you wish that you'd known when you first started, perhaps, or what good advice have you had?
Whoa, that is a big one, isn't it? I think for me, one of the things that I've always let forward with and I've always drive forward with is not having a fear to fail and to diversify. I love learning new things. That's not for everyone. Like I genuinely love it. Like I will read books, I will watch YouTube, I will push in directions of new. I taught myself how to properly colour grade in April because, well, I had nothing else going on, so I thought I'd use the time wisely. And now I really enjoy that, and it's another string to my bow. And because of all these strings that I've started to produce over the years, I had this plethora of different options that I could have. So when all my business collapsed in terms of entertainment, I could go down any of those routes. But that has come from trial and error over the years of trying something new and failing, trying something different, failing, getting it wrong, rebuilding it, going back to it, and not having that fear of I've got to get it right every time. And I think for me, if there's something that you want to do, go and do it. Go and learn it. Go and take that leap of faith. And granted, you may need to make sure your mortgage is paid and that your family's okay. But if there's something you want to do, grab it by the two horns and go and do it. And there's no shame if it doesn't work out. It doesn't work out. Like, you don't have to take that massive leap of faith like I did, quit your job as a doctor and go full time as a performer. But you can make sure that you start booking things on a weekend and just selling some of your time to build up that idea. Then maybe go 3 days a week in your job and do 2 days a week working for yourself before you then go full time, if that's what you want to do. Or maybe you go, actually, what I want to do is get a promotion in my company, and so start investing more time and idea around your time that you wouldn't be working in learning new skills and new things and bringing that in. So I think for me, one of the things that the pandemic has really flagged up for everyone is that life is short and that it can be very easily restricted. We've all had, in our own way, an insight into what it would be like to be elderly, to be isolated, to be immobile, and not be able to go out and do the things that we want. And, we all drive towards this idea that, when we get to retirement, we'll go and travel the world. Or when we get to retirement, we'll be able to do this. Well, actually, by the time you come to retirement, you may be only able to do this and sit inside and not do a lot. So why wait? Do it now. Just go and do it and take some time out. And that's one of the biggest things for me is making sure that you don't just go, I'm going to wait and see what happens. Is just take that leap and do it.
Love it. And if somebody wanted to find out more about you and your business, where's the best place for them to do that?
Online. There's a few different websites. The first one is aaroncalvert.com, which is the entertainment website. So there's plenty of videos on there. If you're literally just on a Friday afternoon at work and you go and I want to watch something and avoid some work, there's plenty of videos on there. If you're looking for hypnosis, hypnotherapy, stress relief, and all the elements around that whole element, then it's prescription hypnosis. Little nod to the doctor thing. And finally, if you are looking for events and things like that, there's prescription media, which is the media side of what I do, but also Through the Eye, which I'd highly recommend if you are looking for events, or you're looking for video broadcast, or you're looking for a whole comm strategy where you go, actually, we want to just re-engage with our workforce, or we want to re-engage with the public with our brand. Through the Eye, who I work for, so I'd highly recommend them as well.
Brilliant. Really appreciate your time today. It's been some useful tips for people on a wide range of subjects, and thank you very much.
It's been a lot of fun. Thanks for having me on, Jamie.
You're welcome. All right, take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.